bunch of Marines and one badass civilian are trapped in a compound crawling with slavering alien beasts in this iconic sci-fi sequel, Terminator 2. On this episode of Deja View, it's an alien misdirection. In the future, the city of Venice is polluted and uninhabitable, and beneath the city, the decontamination team has suddenly gone radio silent. The authorities send in an elite squad of soldiers to investigate, accompanied by scientist Sarah Drumble and a suspicious corporate rep named Fuller. Descending into the sprawling underground complex, the group discovers mysteriously cocooned bodies, a frightened young survivor, and a horde of giant slimy creatures. And that's before there's a killer robot on the loose. It's an old joke that unimaginative Hollywood suits like their movie pitches summed up as X meets Y.
Right, it's Out of Africa meets Pretty Woman.
Not unlike Ghost meets Manchurian Candidate.
Even when the comparisons don't really match the finished film. However, when Italian producer Franco Gaudenzi asked for a script that was Alien meets the Terminator, that was precisely what he wanted. It was the late 80s, the overseas market was lucrative, and locally made copycat films were selling. Ridley Scott's Alien had already spawned Alien 2 on Earth and Contamination, and The Terminator had inspired Hands of Steel. Why not the best of both worlds? Gaudenzi commissioned his mashup screenplay, dubbed Shocking Dark, from husband and wife team Claudio Fragasso and Rossella Drudi, and he demanded that many specific elements be lifted directly from The Terminator, even a protagonist named Sarah. Drudi in particular chafed at the micromanagement, but she ultimately worked out a story built heavily around James Cameron's Aliens. Her concept, in its original form, featured an extraterrestrial ship crashing into the Venetian lagoon and wreaking havoc on an already pollution-ravaged Earth. In the end, the alien ship would get the axe, but the pollution element remained. In fact, a 1990 MeFed listing would describe the film as simply an ecological thriller set in Venice, a breathtaking example of missing the forest for the trees. But Drudi's novel contribution to an otherwise by-the-numbers Aliens clone reflected contemporary Italy's very serious environmental concerns. In the mid and late 80s, the country could only process around 20% of the toxic waste it produced each year. This led to an international scandal when it was discovered that companies were offloading thousands of drums of toxic waste to developing nations like Nigeria, and that many of those containers were leaking. At the same time, fear of another Chernobyl disaster prompted the government to decommission the country's nuclear power plants. Italy was greening, and ecological messages were permeating its media. Drudi and Fragasso's finished screenplay was handed off to director Bruno Mattei, who, in an effort to make Shocking Dark look like a Hollywood production, cast several Americans living in Italy. He found his lead in Haven Tyler, a model from Connecticut who was studying abroad in Florence.
They invited me in and they just asked me to scream. That was the entire audition, and found out a few days later that I'd gotten the part. But I think that largely had to do with the fact that I looked a lot like Sigourney Weaver at the time, red hair and freckles and blue eyes, and you could quickly tell that it was an Aliens ripoff. So I think that was something that they were looking for.
However, committing to the film meant abandoning her studies and breaking the news to her father, a conservative lawyer.
So I told my father that I had to drop out of school second semester senior year to be in this horror film. I heard this long pause on the other end of the line, and he said, "Are there monsters?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Do you get to shoot them?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, that's fantastic." And it was really great to have that support from him.
From there, the cast and crew embarked on 6 weeks of shooting on location throughout Italy. Much of the underground complex was filmed at the decommissioned Latina nuclear power plant near the west coast, where Rossella Drudi had a connection. Other parts of the facility were played by the underground tunnels in Rome's Termini railway station, and the finale was shot on location in Venice. Only one set was built expressly for the film. Now, you might be wondering how closely the movie followed Aliens. Well,
easy, easy.
I got her! Ow! Damn! Oh!
You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right. Help me.
Please kill me.
6.
Can't be. That's inside the room.
It's reading right, man. Look.
Well, you're not reading it right.
6.
But that's impossible. They'd already be here.
The reading is correct. Look.
You can't be reading that right.
I cross my heart and hope to die.
Cross my heart.
And hope to die.
Only at the film's climax does it really begin to emulate The Terminator. Fuller is revealed as an unstoppable, murderous robot that pursues Sarah and the child like the T-800 in the Cyberdyne factory. It's also worth noting that a team member turning out to be a deadly android loyal to its corporate overlords is an element of 1979's original Alien. And once the heroes reach the facility's escape pod, a time machine that sends them back to before Venice was polluted, the film plants itself firmly in Terminator territory. And yes, the producer even managed to release the movie in some territories as Terminator 2, beating James Cameron's official sequel by a year. After Shocking Dark, director Bruno Mattei was done with killer robots, but he'd revisit Aliens many years later for his final film. Released in 2007, Zombies: The Beginning, the sequel to Island of the Living Dead, replicates Cameron's movie in minute detail, only swapping xenomorphs for zombies. It follows the sole survivor of an undead-infested isle who's rescued from the ocean and discredited by the insurance company that underwrote her ship, which she was forced to destroy on account of zombies. Then she's sent back with a squad of soldiers after they lose contact with the medical team on the island. The film comes complete with zombie chestbursters, flamethrowers, a corporate toady, and even a zombie queen that births baby zombies. Ew. Hey, did you know Deja View has a book now? It's called How the World Remade Hollywood. Written by yours truly based on years of research and interviews, How the World Remade Hollywood tells the incredible and little-known stories behind dozens of wild remakes and ripoffs. Whatever you think you know about remake-exploitation, I promise you're going to be surprised. Get How the World Remade Hollywood wherever you buy books online, or ask your local library to get it for their collection and read it for free. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.